My name is Sophia, and I'm 28 years old. 6 months ago, I discovered something that shattered everything I believed about trust, family, and friendship. The two people I loved most in this world plotted to steal what could have been a life-changing opportunity from me. But here's the thing about betrayal. Sometimes it teaches you lessons worth more than money ever could. I'm sharing this story because I know many of you have experienced that gut-wrenching moment when someone you trust completely turns out to be someone else entirely. If you're going through something similar right now, I want you to know you're not alone. And if you've never experienced betrayal like this, consider yourself lucky. But also pay attention, because the signs were there all along. I just chose not to see them. It all started on a Tuesday morning in March. I was sitting at my kitchen table, coffee getting cold, staring at a lottery ticket. Not just any lottery, ticket. This was a scratch-off I'd bought on impulse at the corner store. $20 for a chance at $50,000. I remember thinking how silly it was, how I never win anything. My fingers were actually shaking as I scratched off those silver squares. The first number matched. Then the second. By the third match, my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I realized I'd won the full $50,000, I literally dropped the ticket. It fluttered to the floor like a feather, and for a moment, I just stared at it lying there. This small piece of paper that could change everything. My first instinct was to call my sister Maya. She's 3 years older than me, and she'd always been my person. The one I shared everything with. Good news, bad news, stupid jokes, relationship drama, everything. Then I thought about calling my best friend Rachel. We'd known each other since high school, survived college together, been each other's bridesmaids. These were the two people who'd celebrate with me without any jealousy or weirdness. At least, that's what I thought. I decided to tell them both in person. I wanted to see their faces light up, wanted to share that pure joy of unexpected good fortune. I carefully tucked the ticket into my wallet, made sure it was secure, and started planning a little celebration dinner. Nothing fancy. Just the three of us, some takeout, and the kind of genuine happiness that comes from sharing good news with people who truly love you. If you are watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from. Before I tell you about this life-changing decision, hit like and subscribe to hear more real stories about family loyalty and betrayal that might just change how you see your own relationships. I spent that entire day feeling like I was floating. $50,000 wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough to pay off my credit cards, maybe take a real vacation for the first time in years. I kept touching my wallet, making sure the ticket was still there. I even took a photo of it just in case. Something in my gut told me to be careful, though I couldn't understand why at the time. Looking back, I think some part of me already knew. Some deeper intuition was trying to warn me about what was coming, but I was too caught up in the excitement, too trusting in the people I'd chosen as my inner circle. I'd grown up believing that family meant unconditional support, that friendship meant celebrating each other's wins without reservation. I was about to learn how naive that belief really was. The dinner was set for Friday night at my apartment. 3 days to keep this secret, to plan how I'd share the news. I decided I'd wait until after we'd eaten, when we were relaxed and happy. I'd pull out the ticket casually, maybe make a joke about my ridiculous luck. I imagined Maya's shocked expression, Rachel's excited squealing. I pictured us planning what I'd do with the money, maybe joking about them getting a little something too. I had no idea that by Friday night, everything I thought I knew about these relationships would be completely destroyed. I had no idea that I was about to discover a side of the people I loved that would make me question every memory, every shared moment, every instance I'd chosen trust over self-protection. But sometimes the most painful lessons are the ones we need most. Sometimes betrayal isn't just about what people take from you. It's about what they reveal about themselves, and what that revelation teaches you about your own worth. To understand how deeply this betrayal cut, you need to know about my relationship with Maya and Rachel. These weren't casual friendships or distant family ties. These were the two people I'd built my entire support system around. Maya and I grew up in a small house with our single mom after our dad left when I was 8. Mom worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, which meant Maya and I relied on each other for everything. She helped me with homework, taught me how to do my hair, defended me from bullies at school. When I got my first period, it was Maya who explained everything because Mom was working a double shift. When I had my heart broken for the first time, Maya sat with me for hours, eating ice cream and plotting ridiculous revenge scenarios we'd never actually carry out. Maya was beautiful in that effortless way some people are. Tall, with naturally straight blonde hair that never seemed to have a bad day. She was the kind of person who could throw on jeans and a t-shirt and still turn heads. But more than that, she was magnetic. People were drawn to her confidence, her quick wit, the way she could make anyone feel like they were the most interesting person in the room. I was different. Quieter, more thoughtful. I preferred books to parties, deep conversations to small talk. Where Maya was the sun, bright and attention-grabbing, I was more like the moon. Present, steady, but content to let others shine brighter. Our differences never felt like a problem. They felt complementary, like we balanced each other out perfectly. Rachel came into our lives during our junior year of high school. She transferred from across the country when her dad got a new job. I remember the first day she walked into our chemistry class, looking nervous and a little lost. She had curly red hair that she kept trying to tuck behind her ears, freckles across her nose, and this smile that was both shy and mischievous at the same time. Maya and I both gravitated toward her immediately. There was something genuine about Rachel that felt rare. She wasn't trying to impress anyone or fit into any particular group. She was just herself, unapologetically. She loved terrible romantic comedies, made the most amazing chocolate chip cookies, and had this laugh that was so contagious it could turn anyone's bad day around. The 3 of us became inseparable. We called ourselves the Triangle because we joked that we were strongest when all 3 sides were connected. We spent weekends together, shared clothes, knew each other's families like they were our own. Rachel's parents basically adopted Maya and me. We had standing dinner invitations, holiday celebrations, birthday parties where we were always included. After high school, we all stayed local for college. Different schools, but close enough to see each other regularly. Maya studied business, I went into social work, and Rachel pursued graphic design. Our career paths were as different as our personalities, but we remained each other's constants. We celebrated graduations together, supported each other through bad relationships, shared apartments during our early 20s when money was tight. Have you ever had friendships like this? The kind where you can't imagine your life without these people? Comment below and tell me about your closest relationships. I'd love to hear your stories. When I turned 25, Rachel and Maya threw me a surprise party that made me cry happy tears. They'd invited everyone from our high school friend group, made a photo collage of our adventures, even tracked down our old chemistry teacher to make a video message. That night, sitting surrounded by these people who knew and loved me, I felt like the luckiest person alive. Maya had always been the ambitious one among us. She worked in marketing for a tech company, lived in a sleek downtown apartment, drove a car that was definitely outside my budget. But she never made me feel less than. When I chose social work over higher-paying careers, she supported that decision. When I struggled with student loans, she'd quietly pick up dinner tabs without making it weird. Rachel was the creative one. She freelanced as a graphic designer while working part-time at a coffee shop she loved. Her apartment was filled with art supplies, half-finished projects, and plants she somehow managed to keep alive despite her chaotic schedule. She was the one who remembered everyone's birthdays, who organized our friend group activities, who could sense when someone was having a hard time and needed extra support. Looking back now, I can see warning signs I missed. Little moments of competition disguised as sisterly teasing. Comments about my choices that felt supportive on the surface but carried subtle criticism underneath. But at the time, I interpreted everything through the lens of love and loyalty. I believed that people who'd been in my life this long, who'd shared so many important moments, had my best interests at heart. I was about to learn how wrong that assumption could be. The week leading up to our Friday dinner felt strange in ways I couldn't quite identify. Maya called me more than usual, asking casual questions about my week, my finances, whether anything interesting was happening in my life. At the time, I thought she was just being a caring sister. Now I realize she was fishing for information. Rachel was different too. She seemed distracted when we talked, like her mind was somewhere else. When I suggested we try that new Thai restaurant for dinner, she insisted we stick to our original plan of ordering pizza to my place. She said it would be more intimate, more relaxed. I agreed, thinking it was sweet that she wanted a cozy night in. Tuesday night, Maya stopped by unexpectedly. This wasn't unusual. She had a key to my apartment, and we'd always been comfortable in each other's spaces. She said she was in the neighborhood, wanted to catch up. We sat on my couch drinking wine, and she seemed unusually interested in my daily routine. She asked about my morning ritual, whether I still bought coffee at the same corner store, if I ever bought lottery tickets or scratch-offs. I laughed and told her I wasn't really a gambling person, which was mostly true. The winning ticket had been an impulse purchase, completely out of character for me. I mentioned that I'd bought one recently, just for fun, but didn't win anything interesting. The lie came easily, and I told myself it was just because I wanted to surprise her properly on Friday. But watching her face as I spoke, I caught something that made me uncomfortable. A flicker of disappointment, followed quickly by what looked like calculation. It was so brief I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Maya smiled and changed the subject, asking about work and my dating life. We finished our wine, and she left around 10, giving me the same hug she always did. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I found myself checking my wallet multiple times, making sure the ticket was still there. I even considered putting it somewhere more secure, but that felt paranoid. This was Maya, my sister, the person I trusted more than anyone else in the world. Wednesday brought another surprise visit, this time from Rachel. She brought coffee and pastries from the bakery near her apartment, said she wanted to talk about some guy drama. This was normal for us. We often used each other as sounding boards for relationship issues, but as she talked about her latest dating disaster, I noticed she kept glancing around my apartment. At one point, she asked to use my bathroom. She was gone for what felt like a long time. When she came back, she seemed more relaxed, like she'd accomplished something. We finished our coffee and she hugged me goodbye. But as she left, I noticed she lingered in my doorway, looking back at my living room one more time. Have you ever had that feeling where your intuition is screaming at you, but your logical mind keeps dismissing the warnings? I'd love to hear about your experiences with trusting your gut in the comments below. Thursday was when things got really weird. Maya called and asked if she could borrow my car Friday morning. Hers was in the shop, she said, and she had an important meeting. I said yes, of course. We'd shared cars countless times over the years, but something about the way she asked felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced the conversation. Then Rachel texted asking if she could come over early Friday evening to help set up for dinner. Again, this seemed normal on the surface. Rachel was always the organizer, always wanted to help. But combined with Maya's car request and their recent strange behavior, I started to feel genuinely uneasy. That evening, I decided to do something that felt slightly crazy but necessary. I took the lottery ticket out of my wallet and hid it in a book on my shelf. Then I took an old lottery ticket I'd bought weeks ago, one that hadn't won anything, and put it in my wallet where the real ticket had been. I told myself I was being ridiculous, but I couldn't ignore the growing sense that something was wrong. I also did something else. I set up a small camera in my living room. It was a security camera I'd bought months earlier, after a break-in in my building, but never actually installed. I positioned it so it would capture most of my main living area, including the spot where I usually kept my purse. I felt guilty doing it. These were the people I loved most, and I was essentially spying on them. But some deep instinct told me to protect myself, even from people I'd never imagined I'd need protection from. Looking back, this was probably the first moment I started truly listening to my intuition, instead of dismissing it in favor of what I wanted to believe. Friday morning arrived with an unusually beautiful sunrise. Maya picked up my car keys as planned, cheerful and affectionate as always. Rachel texted confirming she'd be over around 5 to help prepare. Everything seemed normal on the surface. But I spent that day with a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Friday evening arrived with the kind of tension that makes your skin feel too tight. Rachel showed up at 5 sharp, carrying bags of groceries and wearing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She hugged me like always, but I felt her body language was different, more rigid, more careful. Maya arrived 30 minutes later, with my car keys and an apology about being late. Her meeting had run over, she said, but it went really well. She seemed energized, almost excited in a way that felt disproportionate to whatever business meeting she'd attended. She kept checking her phone, and I caught her exchanging quick glances with Rachel when she thought I wasn't looking. We ordered pizza and settled into what should have been our usual comfortable evening. But the conversation felt forced, like we were all performing our normal friendship instead of living it. Maya kept steering the conversation toward my finances, asking about my job, whether I was worried about money, if I'd had any unexpected windfalls lately. Rachel asked similar questions, but more subtly, woven into discussions about our shared future plans. I decided to test something. Around 8 o'clock, I excused myself to use the bathroom. Before leaving the room, I made sure my purse was visible on the kitchen counter, exactly where I always kept it. I waited in the bathroom for about 5 minutes, listening carefully. I could hear whispered conversation, but couldn't make out the words. When I returned, both Maya and Rachel looked slightly flushed. Maya was standing near the kitchen counter, closer to my purse than where she'd been sitting. Rachel was organizing pizza boxes with unnecessary intensity. The energy in the room had shifted completely. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. I suggested we move to the living room for dessert. Rachel had brought ice cream, and we settled onto the couch with bowls and spoons. The conversation continued to feel stilted and strange, but I played along, waiting to see what would happen next. Around 9:30, Maya suddenly announced she needed to leave early. "Work emergency," she said, pulling out her phone to show us urgent text messages. She seemed genuinely stressed about whatever was happening, but something about her urgency felt performative. She gathered her things quickly, hugged us both, and rushed out. Rachel stayed another hour, but she seemed distracted after Maya left. She kept checking her phone, and I caught her looking toward the kitchen several times. When she finally left around 10:30, she hugged me longer than usual and told me she loved me. At the time, it felt meaningful. Now I know it was guilt. After they left, I sat in my living room feeling completely hollow. The evening had been wrong in every possible way. These were the people who knew me best, who I'd shared everything with, And I'd spent 3 hours feeling like a stranger in my own home with people wearing my loved ones' faces. I checked my purse immediately. The fake lottery ticket was gone. My heart started racing as I confirmed what I already knew. They had taken what they thought was my winning ticket. My sister and my best friend had planned this together. They'd coordinated visits to scout my apartment, figured out my routines, and executed a plan to steal from me. I pulled up the security camera footage on my phone with trembling fingers. There it was, clear as day. While I was in the bathroom, Maya had opened my purse, found the ticket, and handed it to Rachel. They'd had a quick whispered conversation where Rachel had shaken her head, then nodded. Maya had put the ticket in her pocket, and they'd both returned to their seats before. I came back. The footage showed everything. Their guilt, their excitement, their complete betrayal of everything I'd believed about our relationships. I watched it 3 times, hoping somehow I'd misunderstood what I was seeing. But there was no other interpretation. They had stolen from me, planned it together, and then spent the rest of the evening pretending to be my loving sister and devoted friend. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, you know the feeling I'm describing. It's not just hurt or anger. It's a complete disorientation, like gravity suddenly stopped working. Please share your own experiences in the comments. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in these painful experiences helps us process them. I sat on my couch until almost 3 a.m, cycling through disbelief, rage, heartbreak, and a strange kind of clarity. By dawn, I knew exactly what I was going to do. But first, I needed to see how far their betrayal would go. Saturday morning, I woke up feeling like I'd aged 10 years overnight. My phone had several missed calls and texts from Maya. The messages progressed from casual morning greetings to increasingly frantic updates about some lottery emergency she needed to discuss with me urgently. Rachel's messages were different, more careful, asking how I was feeling after dinner, whether everything was okay, if I needed anything. Reading between the lines, I could see she was trying to gauge whether I'd discovered the theft yet. I didn't respond to either of them immediately. Instead, I retrieved the real winning ticket from its hiding place in my book and sat with it for a long time. This small piece of paper had revealed something about the people closest to me that I never could have imagined. In trying to steal my good fortune, they'd given me something more valuable, the truth about who they really were. Around noon, Maya showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair uncombed, still wearing yesterday's clothes. She started talking before I even opened the door fully, a rushed stream of explanations about how she'd accidentally grabbed something from my purse yesterday, how she'd tried to return it but realized it was a losing lottery ticket anyway, how sorry she was for the confusion. I let her in and listened to this elaborate performance with fascination. She was improvising frantically, trying to gauge how much I knew from my facial expressions. When I remained neutral and quiet, she kept embellishing the story, adding details that made it increasingly obvious she was lying. Rachel arrived 20 minutes later, as if on cue. She had the same exhausted, guilty look as Maya, but her approach was different. She focused on emotional manipulation, talking about how much our friendship meant to her, how she'd been reflecting on our conversation last night, how grateful she was to have me in her life. She kept watching Maya for cues, and I could see they'd coordinated this visit just like they'd coordinated the theft. I decided it was time to end this charade. I pulled out my phone and showed them the security camera footage. The silence that followed was one of the most profound I've ever experienced. I watched 2 people I'd loved completely realize that their betrayal had been captured, documented, undeniable. Maya tried anger first. How dare I spy on them? How could I not trust my own sister? This was insulting and paranoid and completely overboard. When that didn't work, she shifted to minimizing. It was just a stupid lottery ticket, probably worth nothing anyway. They were just curious, not actually trying to hurt me. Rachel went straight to tears. She was so sorry it had been Maya's idea. She'd never wanted to do it, but felt pressured. She loved me. I had to believe that. This was completely out of character for her. She'd been going through a hard time financially and hadn't been thinking clearly. Both of these responses told me everything I needed to know. Not once did either of them acknowledge the real harm they'd done. Not once did they show genuine remorse or take responsibility for their choices. Instead, they blamed each other, blamed their circumstances, blamed my reaction for being disproportionate. If you're watching this and you've been in a similar situation, let me know in the comments how you handled it. Sometimes we need to hear how others navigated betrayal to understand our own responses better. I told them both to leave. I said I needed time to process what had happened, and I couldn't do that with them there trying to manage my reactions. Maya argued, saying we needed to work through this as a family. Rachel begged me not to let this destroy our friendship over what she called a misunderstanding. But it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a revelation of their true character when they thought I wouldn't find out. They'd shown me who they were when they believed there would be no consequences for their actions. I kept the real ticket hidden for 2 more weeks, watching them both try different approaches to repair our relationships. Maya sent flowers and apology texts. Rachel wrote me a long letter about how much she valued our friendship. Neither approach acknowledged the planning and deception involved in their betrayal. They were sorry they'd been caught, not sorry they'd done it. Finally, I decided to cash in the ticket. $50,000 felt different now. It wasn't just money. It was proof that I'd learned to trust my instincts, that I'd protected myself when protection was needed. It was evidence that sometimes the people who claim to love you most are the ones you need to guard yourself against. 1 year later, my life looks completely different. It's been exactly 1 year since that Friday night dinner that changed everything. As I'm recording this story, I'm sitting in the living room of my new apartment, one I was able to afford with a down payment funded by that lottery ticket. But the real transformation isn't about the money or the new space. It's about who I've become in the process of learning to trust myself. I want to be clear about something important. I didn't cut Maya and Rachel out of my life to punish them. I created distance because staying close to people who could plan and execute a betrayal like that while looking me in the eye wasn't safe for my emotional well-being. Some relationships can survive broken trust if both people are willing to do the hard work of rebuilding, but that requires acknowledgement, genuine remorse, and changed behavior. I never saw evidence of any of those things. Maya and I have a cordial but distant relationship now. We exchange holiday texts and birthday wishes. She still doesn't understand why I overreacted to what she continues to call a misunderstanding. Last month, she asked if I was ever going to get over being upset about that stupid lottery thing. Her inability to grasp the deeper violation tells me everything I need to know about whether genuine repair is possible. Rachel has tried harder to rebuild our friendship. She's sent letters, invited me to coffee, asked mutual friends to mediate conversations between us. But her efforts have focused entirely on getting me to forgive and move on, not on understanding why her actions were so damaging or demonstrating real change. Forgiveness isn't something you can demand or negotiate. It's something that happens, naturally, when safety and trust are rebuilt through consistent actions over time. Have you ever had to make the difficult decision to distance yourself from someone you loved because they showed you they weren't safe? I'd love to hear how you navigated that choice in the comments. These decisions are never easy, and hearing others' experiences can help us feel less alone in making them. The money from the lottery ticket served me well, but not in ways I initially expected. Yes, I paid off debt and moved to a better apartment. But more importantly, it funded a period of therapy that helped me understand why I'd ignored so many warning signs in my relationships. I learned about boundary setting, about the difference between loyalty and enabling, about how people who truly love you respond when they've hurt you. I also used some of the money to take that vacation I'd dreamed about. I spent 2 weeks in Italy, mostly alone, learning to enjoy my own company without the constant background noise of maintaining difficult relationships. I ate incredible food, visited museums, sat in piazzas with books and coffee, and discovered that solitude can be deeply nourishing rather than lonely. But the most valuable thing that money bought me was time and space to build new relationships based on different principles. I joined a hiking group and met people who shared my love of nature and adventure. I volunteered at a literacy program and connected with others who cared about education and community service. I took an art class and discovered I actually enjoyed painting, something I'd never tried because I was always too busy managing Maya and Rachel's needs and dramas. These new relationships feel different, lighter, more honest. When someone in my hiking group achieves something exciting, the celebration feels genuine. When someone in my volunteer group is struggling, the support offered comes without strings or hidden agendas. These people don't know the old version of me who tolerated boundary violations because I confused them with love. If you're dealing with betrayal in your own life right now, I want you to know that the pain does ease over time, not because you forget what happened, but because you rebuild your life around people and principles that actually support your well-being. You learn to recognize red flags earlier. You develop confidence in your own judgment. You stop apologizing for protecting yourself from people who've shown you they can't be trusted with your vulnerability. To anyone watching who sees themselves in Maya or Rachel's behavior, I hope you'll consider the real impact of your choices on people who love you. Betrayal doesn't just hurt in the moment. It changes how people view every shared memory, every expression of love, every moment of trust that came before. The person you betray has to rebuild their entire understanding of your relationship and their own judgment. That's a heavy burden to place on someone, especially someone who cared about you enough to be vulnerable with you. Please like this video if my story resonated with you, and subscribe for more real talk about family dynamics, friendship challenges, and finding the courage to prioritize your own well-being. Share your own experiences with betrayal and recovery in the comments below. Sometimes the most healing thing we can do is realize we're not alone in these difficult experiences. Remember, trusting your instincts isn't paranoia. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. And sometimes loving someone means loving them from a distance that keeps you both safe.